Welcome to another edition of Horse Center. I'm Brian Zipse, and I'm joined, as always, by my partner, Matt Shifman. How are you today, Matt?
It's great to be here, Brian.
Back in Louisville, of course, we have our executive producer, Ember Marr.
My title's moving up. Good.
Deserving promotion for Amber.
Let's get right into it, guys. We're going to go to the Irish Champion Stakes video. Can we roll tape, Amber?
Australia racing around them on the outside. They're followed by the Grey Gatsby straightening up for home with 2 to go. Mukadram comes to join Kingfisher. Here comes Australia now, racing right up to them on the outside. And it's the Jewel Derby winner, Australia, the Grey Gatsby, putting in a strong bid towards the outside. They're inside the last 150 yards. Australia in front for Joseph O'Brien. The Grey Gatsby and Ryan Moore on the near side. Neck and neck, 50 yards to go. Australia, the Grey Gatsby. The Grey Gatsby has got him on the line. Ryan Moore wins the Quipco Champion Stakes from Australia.
Matt, I know it was on the other side of the Atlantic, but for me, for my money, that was one of the races of the year.
It was an absolutely terrific race. I love watching those British horses come out of the gate carefully and slowly, and then just make those moves that are so explosive. And the Grey Gatsby, watching the replay, I thought, I knew what the outcome was. I was like, when is this horse going to make a move? And right. It just looked, he was getting farther and farther behind, and then just exploded down the stretch.
He was able to cut the turn a little bit coming out of the stretch, coming out of the far turn there at Leopardstown. And Australia had to go a little wide. Australia, of course, was the big favorite in here, along with Kingman. He is one of the leaders of the 3-year-old division out in Europe. But I think this race, with this great win by the Grey Gatsby, puts him right into the picture. Unfortunately, Matt, it looks like neither of them are going to be coming to Santa Anita this year.
Yeah, from what I've read, they both seem to be aiming for the champion stake that's coming up at Ascot. And, and if they don't go there, then I think they're both going to call it quits for this year, with plans to come back for racing the following year. I found it curious reading a bunch of stuff about that race. There were a lot of people jumping on Joseph O'Brien after the race, saying he caused the Australia loss. I said, I didn't see that. Yeah, he went a little wide, but
seemed like he might have been a little overconfident. Seemed like he might have been a little overconfident, Matt, and he did go wide. It was a great race. 2 good horses. They hooked up. They hooked up a couple hundred yards to go, and the Great Gatsby had a little bit more momentum. He's my Zat Star of the Week, the Great Gatsby.
Deservedly so.
Deservedly so. Back in America, it was a little bit of the same thing going on. We had Euro domination both days, Saturday at Belmont, Sunday at Woodbine. The Euros came in, Matt, and they kicked the American horses' asses a little bit.
And I agree. It was a lot like we were watching the race with Australia and Great Gatsby, because with Grey Gatsby, excuse me, there were a lot of horses making that same move, coming out of the gate slow and making a big move around the turn and winning the races.
Yeah, there was, let's see, Saturday at Belmont, you had Ball Dancing. She, of course, won the Stands Point. You had the other filly I thought was pretty amazing. It was her first race.
I was wowed by the move that Anecdote made.
You were wowed. I was wowed. I was up at Arlington watching the race. Anecdote's race in the Noble Damsel. If she runs like this every time she runs in America, look out, America. Can we roll tape?
Onto that narrow lead. Bayrama in front as they come for the top of the stretch. Love Train on the outside. There's Baffle Me. Far outside, Julie's Love is coming on. And down at the rail, it's Devilish Love. It is Bayrama still in front. And here comes Anecdote, who was last for much of the way. Anecdote has swept to the lead. And it will be the British-bred Anecdote to come from last to win the Grade 3 Noble Damsel.
And then, of course, the next day was Sunday. Our attention was up at Woodbine. The Woodbine Mile Day had several good stakes. And the first of them was the 1.5 mile race, the prep for the Breeders' Cup Turf. And the Pizza Man, a favorite of mine, was favored, but it was the European, Sheikh Zayed Road. He had to sit through a little bit of a objection, a foul claim, as he came out late in the race. but he showed a lot of gameness. He didn't break well, and then he came up the rail, small opening on the rail, and he proved best there.
Yep, first big win of the day for British trainer David Simcock.
That's right, first big one, but there was another one coming.
Absolutely.
We roll tape on that Woodbine Mile.
And they straighten away in the Rico Woodbine Mile. Down on the inside it is Bobby's Kitten. Here comes River 7, and here comes Grand Arch, the King Edward winner. Grand Arch is running hard on the outside. It is mayhem in the mile in the final furlong. Digging down deep is Bobby's Kitten. Here comes Trade Storm for Jamie Spencer. Trade Storm has taken the lead. Kagan's coming late, and it's Trade Storm. A brilliant performance to win the Rico Woodbine Mile to Kagan, and a show photo between Bobby's Kitten and River 7.
Now, Trade Storm had his chance before, Matt. Last year, he ran into a little cult, a little gelding, I should say, that we like to call Wise Dan.
Wise Dan, who set that monstrous track record time in the mile. It was like in the 131s, wasn't it?
I know he ran 131 and change out at Santa Anita, and I know he set a track record of Woodbine. I'm not sure if it was under 132 or
it was in the 131s, I'm pretty sure. Without Wise Dan there, it was a different story. It was Trade Storm's day.
Trade Storm's day. Kagan came on late, ran a good race to be second. Probably looking for both of them to head west in about 6 weeks for the Breeders' Cup Mile. All right, so Euro domination, ball dancing, anecdote, Trade Storm shake, Zayed Road. Is this a bad sign come Breeders' Cup, Matt?
Well, we'll have to see. I still think we've got some good Americans. We've got Wise Dan, we've got Main Sequence, and you and I had a discussion the other day about whether Main Sequence, do we consider that horse an American, or do we consider that horse a Euro? I say he's American. Graham Motion's had him all year. Graham Motion's got 2 wins this year. On my scoreboard, Main Sequence is on our team.
My friends in Europe might disagree with you, Matt, but that's okay. So what you're saying, though, is the Americans, we have our big guns still laying in wait, and we have every right to think that we can win a turf race or 2 this year at the Breeders' Cup.
I hope so.
Speaking of big things coming, is it time for Matt's stud of the week?
My stud of the week this week is Warfront.
Warfront,
the big stallion at Claiborne Farm, the
son of Danzig.
By Danzig, the $50 million valued stud at Claiborne, had a really interesting double last Thursday, just about the time when we were working on the show last week. He had a colt sell at Keeneland for $2.2 million. 2.2, one of 14 horses that Warfronts that have sold at the sale. That horse was a full brother to another Warfront, obviously, that a few years ago was a $1 million yearling sale himself. But what made it interesting was Mosler, a couple hours later, won the 8th race at Belmont Park.
The same day. So full brothers.
Big
sale, big win.
Right. Mosler had a lot of people like that horse on the Derby Trail early on, but he had some problems. And it's a Belmont. His one race back in typical Belmont fashion was, he wasn't ready to win, but he was very, very impressive in his win in the 8th race last Thursday at Belmont Park.
I remember the hype, and maybe he's starting to live up to that hype. But we'll see if he can move up into stakes company. So your stud of the week.
Warfront.
There's another Warfront, an old friend of mine by Warfront, Departing. I've always liked Departing.
You have always loved Departing.
He's an Illinois Derby winner, and he's making his return. He threw in a clunker last time in the Whitney. I don't know what happened. But word is that Departing will be coming back at Churchill Downs in a few weeks for the Homecoming Classic. So I'm looking forward to seeing if Warfront can keep up this stud of the week type of behavior. What else we got going on, Matt? We got any news coming this week? Is there someone we've been waiting for?
We've got the Pennsylvania Derby, Cotillion duo at Parks with the return of California Chrome.
California Chrome. California Chrome, the name sounds familiar. Do we have tape on him, Ember?
I think we do.
Let's roll tape.
And they're coming to the top of the stretch, and California Chrome makes his move for the lead. It is California Chrome on the outside. Samrat runs at him with the 8 pole. California Chrome is pulling away. California Chrome into the final furlong. He's got a 5-length lead on his competition. It is California Chrome in front. And from the back of the pack on the outside, Commanding Curve is taken second. But California Chrome shines bright in the Kentucky Derby.
All right, so California Chrome is back. I don't know. Is he the biggest star in racing? I mean, Wise Dan's been around forever doing it, but people just, I think racing fans that may not watch all the time have kind of gravitated to this flashy chestnut who won the Derby and the Preakness. He's the biggest star in racing right now, I guess.
Oh, without question, he's got that. He's got the glitz from the near miss in the Triple Crown. He is absolutely the star of racing. He's been training superbly for his comeback. I mean, he hasn't done anything wrong this year. It was a near miss on the Triple Crown after having that big chunk torn out of the back of his foot. And he still ran a heck of a race there after a unusually strenuous campaign these days. So I think most of the racing world is hoping that he's going to return right where he left off.
That would be nice. That would be nice to see the California Chrome we saw all spring, because that would kind of set up the Breeders' Cup really nice. But this Penn Derby is no pushover. I mean, there's some good horses in there. I think we could pull up our Timeform US past performances, Matt, and you got some interesting horses in there. Bayern, we saw Bayern at Monmouth Park in the house.
We did.
That win was the real deal type of win, wasn't it?
Absolutely spectacular.
Wire to wire, beat a good field, and did it as easy as a horse can do it. He's had his bad races, but the Penn Derby, he's back at 1 1/8 miles, a little bit shorter distance. He's definitely going to scare California Chrome out there winging on the lead, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, Victor Espinosa is going to have to be alert with California Chrome. If Bayern gets out there loose, he can't let him get too far out there, because when he gets loose and he starts running free, that's his game. So they're going to have to be aware.
Bayern is tough when he can set those fractions all the way around the track and is a little bit unpressured early, like we've seen him do several times. So you bring up a good point. Victor Espinosa is going to have to keep an eye on him, and it's a question how quickly California Chrome tries to pounce. Let's take a look at that Haskell that we saw this summer at Monmouth Park, and a beautiful win by Bayern.
Outside the quarter pole, where Bayern's in front of the Haskell. Bayern off the turn. Wildcat Red, Social Inclusion. Untapable swings 4 wide for the stretch drive, and then it's Albano, top of the lane, and Bayern has kicked it into gear. Bayern opens up to lead by 4. Bayern by 5. Untapable's gaining no ground. Down inside it's Albano into the final 50 yards, and Bayern is gone in the Haskell. Bayern wires the field, 7 lengths on the wire.
Yeah, it's great to see and be reminded of how awesome that performance was by Bayern as we think about the Pennsylvania Derby.
That was a great performance. It only gets tougher, though, with California Chrome and company. There's another race that I think we should take a look at, and that's the West Virginia Derby, because I think these colts are very good. They're not quite on the level of a California Chrome at his best, or maybe a Shared Belief. But I think we saw some good things in the West Virginia Derby, and part of that was pointed out when the third place finisher, Vickers in Trouble, came back with a big win in the Super Derby. Now you got the top two who duked it out all the way to the wire, Tapiture and Candy Boy. And I think both of them are ready for fall racing as they've kind of improved during the summer. Since both failed in the Kentucky Derby, they've had a nice lead up to Saturday's race.
Right. As we're watching the stretch run, you have to admire Tapiture, because the move that Rosie has to make coming down the stretch when he starts to get shut off a little bit, when she moves him 2 or 3 paths to the middle of the track, and he can still keep his momentum and know where the wire is and manage to get up for the win. That's impressive. That kind of determination goes a long way in a big race like the Pennsylvania Derby.
Yeah, I agree with you, Matt. It was a big performance by Tapiture. He really probably shouldn't have won the race. I still think Candy Boy has a big win in him. He ran a very good race, but Tapiture was gutty to get up at the last jump to beat Candy Boy in the West Virginia Derby. I consider both of them threats in the Penn Derby. Maybe Protonico. How good is Protonico? His last two races, he just missed a VE day. We know what VE day did in his next race in the Travers. And then he came back with a nice win at Parks. So Protonico is another horse in there that could upset the Chrome cart if California Chrome is not 100%. So that's just part of the big day. You mentioned it a little bit earlier. There's also the Philly edition of the Penn Derby, if you will. In fact, this is the Grade 1 of the day, although we know the Pennsylvania Derby will be Grade 1 next year.
I sure would assume so.
Absolutely. But the Cotillion is $1 million race, Grade 1. You've had horses like Shuvi, Havre de Grace. Who else has won this? Your friend Midas Aurelia. Lots of good horses have won this race. And we have lots of good horses in this year's, led by this Kentucky Oaks winner. Let's roll the tape.
Goes My Miss Sophia to the front, but Untappable is right at her neck on the outside. And these two turn for home together in the Kentucky Oaks. And Untappable and Rosie Napravnik have taken the lead. My Miss Sophia tries her best to stick with her, but Untappable is moving away. She's 3 lengths out in front of My Miss Sophia as they come down to the final 16th. It's Untappable. Untappable is well clear. She is unstoppable. She is uncatchable. She is untappable. She wins the Kentucky Oaks over My Miss Sophia.
Yeah, this field is led by what's going to be another huge favorite, Untappable. Brian, what do you think about Untappable in the Cotillion?
Untappable's the one to beat, Matt. Her races this year against fillies, there were 4 of them, all graded. The Kentucky Oaks, the Mother Goose, the Fairgrounds Oaks, the Rachel Alexander. She dispatched of her competition, her female competition, without breaking a sweat. She looked like the best filly we've seen in a few years, early on in her 3-year-old year. It prompted her connections to roll the dice a little bit. They went to Monmouth Park, and she ran into Bayern that day. She wasn't good enough. She was in the running for second late, but she faded a little bit. But now back against her own kind, she's the one to beat, right? Is there anyone else you like besides Untappable?
I do. There's a couple horses in there that I think are maturing and starting to get better. I like that Larry Jones horse, Cassat, that ran a big race at Monmouth Park the other day. Nobody's better with the fillies than Larry Jones is. I think I've been hearing a little bit this afternoon that Stop Charging Maria is not going to go in the Cotillion. I've been hearing that they're going to scratch and go to the Beldame instead.
Might be an easier spot. I don't know.
I think it could definitely be an easier spot. So that takes a little bit of it also. Little Alexis is also another horse that seems to be maturing and getting better.
Let's throw up those Timeform USPPs for us, Ember, if you would. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Little Alexis, Matt. You know how much I like Sweet Reason. I've always been a big fan of Sweet Reason, and I've been lucky enough to support her during her 1-turn wins. This is a new test, though, 2 turns. She hasn't passed the 2-turn test before, but she's really good, and if the race sets up well, certainly Sweet Reason is a threat in the stretch. But if you like Sweet Reason, you got to kind of look at Little Alexis. She's only had 3 races. They've all been sprints. She beat My Miss Sophia down in her debut race. Then she had a little layoff. She came back. She won her stakes race off of 4 months off. And then in her last race in the test, she had some trouble early, and she was running big late. Sweet Reason beat her by 1 length.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great performance from a very young horse who's getting the experience that she needs.
Yeah, so I'm with you, too. I think Cassat is the real deal. I don't know if Larry Jones is the best with the fillies, but she looks, and both on the track and in the mornings, like a filly that's getting very good at the right time. She draws the rail. So some interesting fillies in the Cotillion. It should be a good test for Untappable. We also have another filly that interests me coming back Saturday. I don't know about you, but she was one of the breakout performers at Saratoga this year, and that's Artemis Aguatera.
Yes. Yes, coming back. Yeah, she in that stake on Travers Day, wasn't it?
The ballerina, the grade 1 ballerina, she looked pretty awesome.
Wired that field in impressive fashion, and there were some horses in there that could run.
Absolutely, she crushed them that day. Saratoga might be her best track, but you remember last year she won the grade 1 Frisette at Belmont, and this is where she's going to be Saturday in the Gallant Blue. If she comes back with a ballerina type of performance Saturday, I think she heads to the Breeders' Cup as the East's top filly mare sprinter.
We can look forward to that.
Let's get back to everybody wants to talk about Pennsylvania, though, Matt. And if California Chrome wins, let me set a scenario for you. If California Chrome wins the Penn Derby, looking good. Shared Belief goes to Santa Anita and wins the Awesome Again in a few weeks. That could set up the most exciting matchup in the Breeders' Cup Classic in this century, in the 21st century. I mean, we're talking California Chrome, Shared Belief, huge hype, 2 really, really good 3-year-olds. If they're coming in the right way, Breeders' Cup Classic becomes huge.
Oh, absolutely right. We would have Shared Belief coming in as an undefeated horse. California Chrome almost undefeated in his last 7-8 races. 2 California horses. It'll be a fantastic matchup. The hype will be great. Great to be part of. It'll be great for racing.
The hype machine will be rolling. The 3-year-old Eclipse Award, the Horse of the Year. Maybe the winner becomes the best 3-year-old we've had in America in a few years. Yeah, I'm excited, but you know what else? I'm a little bit worried. You know me, Matt. Sometimes I worry.
Hey, you're looking at me. Worrying is my life.
Here's why I'm worried. I'm worried that people are going to be disappointed after the Penn Derby's over.
Really? So you think that California Chrome might be vulnerable?
I think California Chrome is a little vulnerable. I think people don't realize how tough this spot may be. He's running on a track that might be a little different than what he's used to out in California. He's been away for 4.5 months.
Yeah, those are valid questions here. I mean, certainly California Chrome is going to be really tough to beat, but is there enough of a question?
Is there enough of a question? Well, I have questions. Before all the California Chromies jumped down my throat for saying this, I'm worried. I was hoping that you would talk me off my ledge a little bit, and I don't know if you did it. I mean, Bayern gets out there in a clear lead, it's trouble. California Chrome has to run him down early, and then sets it up maybe for somebody closing. Candy Boy, Tappenshire.
Yeah, and Philadelphia Park, the Parks track. I still call it Philadelphia Park. I'm
glad you didn't call it Liberty Bell.
Or Keystone.
Keystone,
even better. It's an interesting track, and I think for handicappers, for people that are looking to bet on that day, it's going to be important to watch how that track is playing. The Parks track has a reputation that the first couple paths by the rail there are very, very, very deep all the time. Now, what's going to happen on a big day like this? Are they going to manicure the track or not? I think it's something for people to keep an eye out, because it could make a difference in the race.
Absolutely. And you know what, Matt? I hope California Chrome wins. If I had to pick one horse, it would be California Chrome. But I'm worried, and I'm worried to the point where of the 2 big favorites on Saturday, California Chrome in the Pennsylvania Derby and Untappable in the Cotillion, $2 million races, two of the division leaders, I think that of the 2, California Chrome is the more vulnerable. Would you agree?
No, I don't think I agree. Out of the 2 of them, I feel like Untappable is
really
a little bit more vulnerable. I have questions in my mind after her last 2 races. I know she was going against the boys in the Haskell. I know Bayern basically was unbeatable when he got loose on the lane. But I was a little bit disappointed with the way that she finished the race, really fading down the stretch to finish 5th. I expected her to be more competitive. I was a little worried. It was a relatively low speed figure for her compared to what she was doing in the spring. Before that, in the Mother Goose, was a field of 5 or 6, a small field. And I know she won by 5, 6 lengths in there. But again, it was the same kind of speed figure, mid-90 speed figure, which was a good 10 points lower than what she was putting out there in the spring with her race in Louisiana, the Kentucky Oaks.
Matt, you're losing it. You're losing me here, right? Did you have too much sushi last night? Matt, Untappable is the best 3-year-old filly in the country. She proved it time and time again. Look at the Kentucky Oaks. She just was head and shoulders above the other fillies. As much as I like some of these other Sweet Reason, we talked about Cassatt, maybe Little Alexis, until a filly beats Untappable, I think, I'm going to be surprised when it happens. In the Haskell, Bayern wasn't going to lose. She made a move on the turn. Bayern was gone. The race was over. I don't care that a few colts passed her down the stretch. It wasn't. So be it. I think we'll still see the real Untappable on Saturday.
Hey, as much as you hope that California Chrome, we see the best California Chrome, I want to see the best Untappable also. But that doesn't take my concerns away. I still feel like Untappable is a tiny little filly, a slight filly, and I know she's had some time off, but I'm concerned that she peaked in the springtime. I'm concerned that there's a little bit of a chance that she could throw in another one of these mid-90 buyer figures. And if that's the case, some of these improving horses that you've mentioned, Cassatt, Sweet Reason, Little Alexis, I think they're ready to throw in a race just as good as that. If Untappable is the Untappable of the spring, she's not going to lose.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There's a chance.
There's a chance. Let's do this. We'll agree to disagree. I think California Chrome might be a little bit more vulnerable. You seem to think Untappable maybe. Let's root for both of them to show up and run their big race. It makes the Breeders' Cup even better.
Absolutely.
Although if one of the longer ones wins for our pick 3 or our pick 4, that wouldn't be the worst thing either.
And that's just what I was going to say, Brian. The only rooting interest I have in here is if I was going to play a pick 4 and I had to decide which one of them I'm going to single, because I can't play a pick 4 and expect and want both of them at even money to come into pick 4, because I'm not going to make any money. But for me, I think California Chrome is the single, and if I spread a little bit, I think it would be in the Untappable race. I don't even know if I'm going to play the pick 4, honestly, Brian, because
sure you will, Matt. I know you better than that. you will, and chances are people don't want to hear it, but chances are one of them could go down on Saturday. We will see, and it'll be fun to see. Untappable in the Cotillion. California Chrome makes his triumphant return Saturday. We'll see. I hope so. Should be fun. Before we go, Matt, you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to get a parting shot. One of your famous Matt Shifman, Andy Scoggin parting shots. You have one for us this week?
I do, and I think our discussion that we just had led right into it. I'm excited to be going to Parks to cover that great day of racing for Horse Racing Nation, and I just think it's terrific. And that's such a great thing about racing, that in this time that would normally be a little bit of a downtime, we got a month and a half till the Breeders' Cup. We got two fantastic races with tremendous fields, with a lot of interest and a lot of bearing on what's going to happen the rest of the year. That's why we love this game of racing. So it's more of a parting praise here today than a parting shot.
There you go. We're definitely starting to rev up for Breeders' Cup time. And these fall races, before there was a Breeders' Cup, these fall races were the championships, if you will. Now they kind of all lead into the Breeders' Cup, but they're still great. The Super Saturday at Belmont coming up, this wonderful weekend at Belmont, Santa Anita on the same day as Super Saturday, Keeneland gets going. It's a lot of fun leading up to the Breeders' Cup, and I'm looking forward to it. I want to say goodbye. My parting shot isn't as fun today. I want to say goodbye to a few things. I want to say goodbye to Suffolk Downs. It looks like Suffolk Downs is going to be no more. It's going to go the way of the dodo bird. I haven't been there in a long time, Matt, but Suffolk Downs track that I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It wasn't the prettiest track. It wasn't the nicest track inside, but they hosted a lot of champions. Whirl Away, Seabiscuit, Cigar, Skip Away, Commentator won up there in the Mass Cap. It's a shame that we're losing a bit of history in Boston. I also want to say goodbye to a horse who meant a lot to me. I really was a fan of Street Cry as a runner for Godolphin at the turn of the century. Street Cry was a heck of a runner. People, I think, forget how good a runner he was. His wins in the Dubai World Cup, in the Stephen Foster, were really powerful. He raced as a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old at the highest level, and although his career was a little bit lightly raced for those 3 years, he was a real talent, and he was a real talent that carried that over to the breeding shed. Best known for Zenyatta, the sire of Zenyatta. He also sired the great Street Sense. So we miss Street Cry. He passed away at 16 the other day. And finally, I want to say goodbye to the horse that we hailed as the best 2-year-old in the country, Competitive Edge. He's going to be back. He will be back. It was just a hairline fracture. But we have to say goodbye to Competitive Edge as a juvenile because he's on the shelf for the rest of the year. Hopefully, we'll see him early next year. Well, that's another HorseCenter, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it half as much as we enjoyed doing it. Join us next week. We'll look back at the big day at Parks, the Penn Derby, the Cotillion. Did California Chrome and Untapable do it? We'll have the video right here. And we'll also look ahead to big days at Belmont Park, Super Saturday, and of course out at Santa Anita for a plethora of Grade 1 races. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Amber.
Thanks, guys.
We do it for the love of thoroughbred horse racing. Say goodnight, Ember.
Good night, Ember.